It's never fun working the night shift on a deserted mountain pass, especially when the autumn fog rolls in so thick you can barely see past your own headlights or past the tiny windows of Tollbooth 4. But my job at Tollbooth 4 had always been an easy paycheck. The automated gate arm had been broken for weeks, stuck wide open, meaning my only real duty was to sit in the warmth, track the occasional midnight traveler, and make sure the logs matched up. With hours of silence between cars, I usually passed the time sorting through the lost and found bin. That's how I found it. A battered, handwritten travel diary left behind by a driver a week ago. Most of the pages were mundane trip notes, but the final entry, dated just days before, stopped me cold. It read, "If the fog stops moving, lock the door. It's not a cloud."
I tried to shake off the uneasy feeling from the diary and focus on some boring paperwork. But the silence didn't last. A sudden burst of heavy static erupted from the old intercom system.
"Is anyone there?" The voice was faint, buried under layers of white noise. It was coming from Tollbooth 3, the old station 2 miles down the mountain that had been abandoned and boarded up for over a decade. I reached out to press the talk button, but before my finger could touch the plastic, the static cut out completely. The mountain went dead quiet again. I told myself it was just a cross line or the mountain wind messing with the old copper wires. There was no way anyone was sitting inside a boarded-up booth in freezing weather. I sat back down. But less than a minute later, the intercom didn't just static. It shrieked. A loud, rhythmic electronic chime began echoing through the small booth, piercing right through the dark. And this time, the voice on the other end wasn't asking a question. It was screaming. The screech from the intercom froze my blood. But then, the heavy plastic clatter of the landline phone echoed through the booth. No one ever called this number. It was reserved strictly for state emergencies. I picked it up with a shaking hand. A panicked, breathless voice on the other end cut through the static. It was a highway patrol officer from the lower sector, and he sounded like he was running for his life. He screamed, "Tollbooth 4, do you copy? Listen to me very carefully. We got a report from booth 3. A vehicle just blew past the barricade heading up your way, but there is no driver inside." Before I could even ask how that was possible, the officer interrupted. "You don't understand. It's moving at full speed in reverse, with no headlights. And that fog around you, it's not weather. Wherever that car goes, the fog follows it." My eyes darted down to the travel diary on my desk. The final warning burned into my mind. If the fog stops moving, lock the door. I looked out the window. The mountain wind had completely died. The fog wasn't drifting anymore. It was frozen solid. I dropped the phone. Out there in the blinding white fog, 2 faint yellow lights appeared. They weren't moving smoothly. They were jerking forward in violent, unnatural bursts, heading straight for my lane. As it rolled into the light of the booth, a cold sweat broke out across my neck. The car was driving backwards, its tires grinding against the asphalt with a sickening metallic screech, as if a movie tape was being rewound in real time. I scrambled backward to reach the door lock, but the car slammed its brakes, stopping directly parallel to my window. The engine died instantly. The absolute silence of the mountain rushed back in. I held my breath, gripping my heavy flashlight. The driver's side door creaked open, swinging wide into the freezing air. I raised my hand and aimed the beam of light directly into the cabin. The car was entirely empty, but sitting neatly on the dashboard was a fresh, crisp page torn from a notebook. Written in fresh, wet ink was a single sentence: "Your shift begins now." I didn't wait around for the owner of that voice to show up. I bolted out of that booth and ran down the mountain highway on foot, not stopping until the headlights of a highway patrol cruiser finally cut through the dark an hour later. When the authorities investigated Toll Booth 4 the next morning, they found the car gone. There were no tire tracks in the snow, no signs of forced entry, and no fingerprints anywhere inside the booth. To the police, it was just the ramblings of a night shift worker losing his mind to isolation. But they didn't see what I saw before I ran. They didn't check the state archives for Toll Booth 3, the station abandoned decades ago. A few days later, I dug through old local newspaper records from the year Booth 3 was shut down. 3 different operators had vanished from that exact mountain pass over a single winter. Every single one of them disappeared during a sudden, unseasonal fog. When I looked closely at the missing persons reports, the names of those lost operators matched the names written on the first few pages of that travel diary. It wasn't a diary at all. It was a logbook of souls tracked on that mountain. I never went back to the mountain, and I quit my job that very morning. But sometimes, when the autumn fog rolls into my neighborhood and the air turns freezing cold, I can still hear the faint sound of an old intercom static buzzing in the dark, reminding me that my shift isn't over yet. If this story gave you chills, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to Nightmare Vale for more deep woods horror and unsolved mysteries. Let me know in the comments below. Would you survive a night shift at Toll Booth 4? Stay safe out there, and see you in the next nightmare.